Well, that was a nice surprise. A snow game, an entertaining game. Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson, and I'm not gonna lie, I was bashing that game. I see it on primetime. I was like, ugh, yuck, get this game out of my life. I don't care. And that's what happens when you talk crap. You get a good game. So it was a good surprise for all of us here, football fans. And yeah, I don't know what to make of the Steelers losing to the Browns. But the AFC North is interesting. The Steelers beat the Ravens. The Browns beat the Steelers. The Ravens beat the Bengals. The Bengals beat the Browns. Or actually, maybe the Browns just beat everybody. They already beat the Ravens. They beat the Steelers. So credit to them. That was actually pretty cool to see them throw the record aside. 2-8 versus 8-2. Nick Chubb needs to have his comeback story. Myles Garrett wants to beat TJ Watt for best edge rusher in the league. Kevin Stefanski is trying to coach for his job. Jameis Winston is having a bunch of speeches that people really like. So I like that. You're not going to go to the playoffs, but to have a divisional rivalry game at your house in prime time with the snow falling, I love that game. That was a pretty cool game to cover, or at least to watch. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you felt like that was a good game. Nice surprise there. So I'll take back anything I said about the Browns and the Steelers being on prime time. It was impressive that the Steelers had a nice little comeback, but then they blew it at the end. Mike Tomlin had been on a heater. Everything he's been doing was right. It was coming up 7-11 before on the craps tables to get the money. And then he accepts a penalty instead of taking it on the 4th and 2. He goes 3-7. Jameis Winston goes for the first down, eventually a touchdown. So we'll talk about that soon, but don't be shy here. Gilberto's Hour. It is my name on the show, but it's your show. It's our show. And it's also Victor Javier Corona's show. So hello, Victor, that voice that you hear. How you
Hello,
doing?
hello. I kind of want to go on a victory lap here because I've been saying that I'm not a believer in the Steelers, and today I think that was a big reason why, Gilbert. There's a lot to kind of unpack outside of what you just said, but you were right. I mean, Nick Chubb, 20 carries, 2 touchdowns. Jameis Winston, when you least expect it, he does something good here, and I'm happy for that guy. I know it hasn't been he's had an up and down career, but it's good to see him do well, especially in prime time. But yeah, Gilbert, the Pittsburgh Steelers now, Gilbert, are 0-8 on Thursday Night Football on the road,
Wow.
all time, and they're 0-6 under Mike Tomlin as the coach. So if you thought this might be an upset, you were right. And then these teams, as you mentioned, they keep beating up on each other. The AFC North, you never know. I think that's part of the thing that I think we're gonna have to watch the rest of the season with this division, is that they're gonna continue to beat up on each other, and especially with the Browns. They're gonna beat some teams that are gonna be in playoff contention because of that defense. And Myles Garrett, once again, Gilbert proved why he was the defensive player of the year last season. And as you mentioned, also just seeing, we got our first weather game of the
Yeah.
season, and for a lot of people who've been advocating for having a lot of these games inside, this is the beautiful thing about football, is having these type of games on outside. And today prove you're right. One last stat that I wanted to give you, Gilbert, here. Russell Wilson, since he became the starter, he's targeted George Pickens 33 times, and he's only and since and in 3 games now with Mike Williams, he's only targeted one for that one touchdown. So yeah, there's a lot of issues with that offense, Gilbert, and that's part of the reason why I'm not a believer in the Steelers.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if you're joining us, if you're watching, don't be shy. Ask any fantasy football questions. Ask any NFL betting question. Talk about the game you want. Steelers, Browns. Do you agree with Victor about them being pretenders? We'll get to your questions at the end. Thank you for being on the show and already getting the ball rolling in the comments. But yeah, don't be shy. Fantasy football questions. We're here for you to answer questions and help out in any way we can. But yeah, it's weird because, in a way, I do agree with you, Victor. Like, they're not Super Bowl contenders. And, I've been raving about them because they play defense and they're a more
Right.
complete team. And I just don't like that the Ravens have been very overrated and top heavy or one sided heavy. But I kept saying, well, let's see how they do in the division. Okay. You beat the Ravens. That's cool. But then what the hell did Russell Wilson do in that game? They went 7 quarters without getting a touchdown. They got the little surge there. Uh, I thought Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith were having a nice rhythm getting Justin Fields involved. Not that first opening drive with the fourth down, that was terrible. But at the end, they had that rally because they put in Justin Fields in the game. It kind of, mixing and matching. So, the old saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one at all. So, when you have that situation, it's okay to maybe use them and try to get some rhythm and timing going and figure out when to use Justin Fields. For the most part, they've been doing it, well. But that's the thing you're going to get with Russell Wilson. There's going to be limitations there. And Mike Williams hasn't done anything since that game-winning touchdown. They kind of lost that chemistry with George Pickens. And, I know it was a snow game. It's tough. You're facing a tough secondary. Like a lot of these Browns defensive players from last year when they were really good, they're still around. So they showed up today. And I don't know if you watched that post-game interview with Myles Garrett. Like Myles Garrett was fired up, and he remembered everything that happened last year. Trying to prove that he's better than TJ Watt, trying to help out Nick Chubb. That was pretty cool to see. So they were pretty passionate. They were fired up. The thing about, where I get tired of having these conversations, big picture wise, like, all right, like who's going to be a Super Bowl contender? And it's like, maybe it's going to be just the Ravens and the Chiefs. Well, now it's maybe the Bills and the Chiefs. And then for a little bit, maybe the Steelers. Hey, maybe the Chargers. The Chargers surging too. So this was one of those games where, like, let's just get to the playoffs and let's see what happens. Let's duke it out. Like, I get it. We could easily just say the Chiefs because, we don't believe in the Bills past playoff failures and things like that. We don't believe in Russell Wilson. We don't believe in the Ravens, lack of defense. So we don't believe in the Chargers being their moment or their time just yet. So there's all these kind of like, no, 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 no. But with the Chiefs, it's like, well, why not? We're used to that. Maybe for one, this could be one of these AFC and also in the NFC too, Victor.
Yeah.
It could be one of those years where, like, we're all penciling the Lions and the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl. Maybe not. Like today was one of those reminders, like, let's just play the damn games.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that it shows you too, Gilbert, and we'll continue. It's a week by week, as we always mention. It's a week by week league, and it also shows that a lot of these teams have holes in there, and when they're exposed, especially on national TV, we tend to stay with those. We tend to maximize those. Those weaknesses, and we're doing that today with the Steelers. But as you said, I think it also, if you really look at it too, Gilbert, like what happens on Christmas Day in a couple weeks if the Steelers go and beat the Chiefs,
Yeah.
and then we're talking about a whole different conversation. And so you're right. I think we just need to wait for the playoffs and see what happens. But these are measuring stakes, and that was my biggest thing with the Steelers too, Gilbert, is I looked at the backhand of the schedule where they were just going to be facing the division. And that's hard to go, every week having to face a divisional opponent because they know each other really well. If you had them spaced out, I feel better about the Steelers. But the fact that you're just going to end on a gauntlet going up against your division when we know how good this division can be, especially whether you're talking about like the Bengals offense or the Browns
Yeah.
defense, it's gonna take its toll eventually.
Yeah, you still have to play the Bengals twice. I get it. I crap on them for being 4-7, but that's like that defense has to go up against Joe Burrow. And yeah, they shut down Lamar Jackson, but it still is physically, tiring, mentally tiring, having to deal with that as the Chargers defense found out. So yeah, it's not an easy schedule by any means. And for the Ravens, and we're gonna break down Ravens Chargers in a bit here. We'll get to the comments after this my points here, but the Ravens are now one game behind, and I know they lost that tiebreaker to the Steelers, but they could beat the Chargers and get a tie for the division. So all these races here are still going on. Maybe even the Chargers somehow the Chiefs lose another game, maybe to the Panthers. I know that's kind of been on Fernando's radar. Then you're one game behind. So you just never know. So we're still a lot of football left. You don't really. The saying is you don't really talk about you shouldn't really talk about the playoffs until after Thanksgiving. We're like a week away as I'm watching Jameis Winston playing snowball fights on TV. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, throwing snowballs there. So that, by the way, that was pretty cool. Again, I know I said that, but the last point here, just to make it about this game and not the big picture. Mike Tomlin, you should have just let that go to 4th and 2. They're going to kick that field goal. If they kick it, then you don't really, it's not. You're also, well, I guess you technically no, yeah, you will still need. No, it'll be a 2-point game. Yeah, they were up by 1. field goal would be a 2-point game, so you would just need a field goal. You would still have more time on the clock. Instead, you give them 3rd and 7. They get a first down. They kill a bunch of clock. They scored a little too early, but still, it was like 50 seconds left after Nick Chubb scored. But I didn't get it. He kept trying to just say, "No, I don't want it," and he kept talking to the officials. And he said, "You know what? Actually, I do want it." So he went from 4th and 2, but 3 and 7, and he could have probably missed that field goal. It was snowing. Why not let him kick the field goal, or just take your chances on them going for it on 4th and 2? Put the decision on their hands instead. You made it easier for them to have 2 tries there. So Mike Tomlin, he was in a heater, but now he's crapping out at the craps table. So I'll stop saying Vegas terms here. But
Yeah.
I just felt like he was just on a hot one there, where like he was making money for everybody in Pittsburgh, and today
Right.
it kind of came back down to earth. But yeah, let's get to some of these comments here, Victor.
Yeah, and before we do, let me just give you I had sent you this tidbit, and this is why it's important when, especially as we get into the whole betting situation, Gilbert. And the Steelers were 8-2 against the spread this season, tied for the best record in the NFL.
Mm,
90% of the bets were on the Steelers at three
yeah.
and a half at the Browns. So, like I said, sometimes if you see the public money going in one way, sometimes it's just best to go the other way and make some money that way. So, all
Yeah.
right, Gilbert, let's get to these
Well,
comments.
real quick, I'm not gonna lie. This game was on a Sunday. I probably would have put it on my best 5 because
Yeah,
it
same.
looked kind of easy. Like, oh, three and a half. Okay. But yeah, you get burned like that.
Yeah. We have a tier up first. He says, let's start the show with this, Gilberto. Top dog in the AFC North, Steelers and Ravens lost to the Browns, but the Chargers dominate on the road. Who is the better team?
I'm not gonna go off of that. Obviously, the Steelers beat the Chargers at the year. Don't forget about that. But if the Chargers beat the Ravens, then you got a good case there. But it's a week to week league, and
Yeah.
I guess you get more like it's weird because the Browns were terrible against the New Orleans Saints. I picked the Browns, and they were dog crap. I'll say it like that in New
Yeah.
Orleans. Like it wasn't even snowing; it was indoors, and you have a pitiful performance, and then you come and do this. It's just a division opponent, a primetime game. Everything is very different at there. But I get it. It is a little weird that they beat the Ravens and the Steelers. But hey, if the Chargers beat the Ravens, then you should definitely be bragging about that.
Yeah, yeah, and especially if you beat both, if you since you lost to the Steelers and you beat you got to take care of business against some of those AFC North. You took care of the Bengals. Now do it against the Ravens at home, because it's tough to win on the road, especially in the AFC North. But yeah, Atir also says I don't take the Ravens or the Steelers in the playoffs. As a Chargers, I'm worried about the Bills and the Chiefs.
Yeah,
Um,
they are the two best teams right now. I could say that.
yep. Fool on the Hill says feels like the loss the Chargers avoided.
Yeah, like the one in Cleveland.
Yeah,
I actually picked. I'm gonna say it. I picked Cleveland because they were coming off that victory with the first game with Jameis Winston, and they beat the Ravens. Yeah, they beat the Ravens with Jameis Winston, and then they played the Chargers, and then they got beat down by the Chargers. So I looked terrible there picking the Browns, but yeah, it could have easily been a trap game, and that's why I chose the Browns because the Chargers were going to Cleveland. They just beat the Ravens, so yeah, they avoided like sometimes that's okay. People crap on cupcake schedules or easy schedules. If you beat the teams in front of you or you beat them down like the Detroit Lions are doing to the Jaguars and the Titans, I actually, praise the crap out of that because you're handling business. You're not playing to the level of the competition. You're not being sluggish. You're not taking a week off. If you beat down these teams and you beat these bad teams, it says a lot about your program.
yeah, and that's why I become more of a believer in the Chargers now, especially since they came off the bye. Because yeah, they are just beating up on teams physically and kind of posing their will on them. And yeah, I mean, we saw it with, and I know that a lot of people are saying, well, they haven't really played anybody. I think that was a big test against the Bengals. I don't care, about the fact that they almost blew it in the second half. Like they gave the Bengals they punched them, but the Bengals punched back, which and it was good to see the Chargers kind of punch back again. So that's kind of what you want to see from a
Hey,
team.
don't tell Jim Harbaugh they blew the lead. He does not want to hear
Oh yeah.
blow the lead. He'll tell you that you said it.
Okay.
You said
Uh,
it. Yeah.
Je- yeah, I did say it.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Zambrano says this NFL season is so weird and such a toss up. We finally have a fantasy question for you here from Angel A. It says Adam Thielen or Westbrook, Nikino Westbrook to start.
First of all, Jeffrey, be on your best behavior. I know you got Dan and Diego in trouble the other day, but thank you for being on. Angel A, Addison, Adam Thielen, Westbrook. Is he the one from the
He's the
Titans?
one from the Titans.
Yeah, I don't know why you're hurting, man, or maybe you're in a deep league. Also, it is bye Armageddon, right? Six
Yep,
teams on a bye
6
week.
teams on a bye.
And then Addison's playing the Chicago Bears defense. I get why that's a little tough. That would have been the easy one. Has Thielen done anything? Has he been back yet?
I
Or
haven't. I
he,
think the other 2 guys, Leggett and I forget the other kid's name
yeah,
too.
Jared
They
Cooker, yeah, or Coker, I
Yes,
forget. Yeah.
yes.
But I think Thielen might be his first game back after the bye week. And you're right, Victor. The other two guys are getting. It's actually a third one. I can't remember his name. Undrafted rookie too. So these two undrafted rookies, one first round pick rookie. They're getting all the targets there. So I think the easy one is Jordan Addison. I know we put a lot of stock sometimes, and if you're playing on Sleeper, it will tell you who's the number one ranked defense in terms of category. You probably see Addison facing the Bears, and it's in red or top 5. Don't be scared of that. Sometimes it's okay. Just play your best players, and Addison should be the
Yep,
easy one here.
I'm with you there. Diego Castaneda says I put in Chubb last night.
Hey,
Kind of happy about that. So 2 touchdowns there.
yeah, good call, Diego. Yeah, I just traded one of my running backs. I was trying to check the wire to add somebody. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Why did I do this? Because having depth at running back is important. So if you held on to Nick Chubb and you played him, shout out to you, Diego. That's a good move.
And then one last one here from Full on the Hill. Does this make the Chargers defense number 1 now?
That's actually a good question. I don't know. Because okay, so the thing about that is where this is where I penalize them for the easy opponents. But like the Eagles actually are coming up. They're only allowing 17 points per game. They're number 1 in total yards allowed too. Maybe it could be the Eagles. But
Yep.
it's just a good conversation. Maybe the Chiefs kind of took a step back when they allowed 30 points, but that was the Bills. And quietly, a little underrated because they're 5-5. Every time I check the stats for defense, the 49ers are up there still. So they don't feel like the old 49ers defense, but they still play very sound defense. But if I'm gonna say no, just to give you, I honestly don't know the answer, Victor. I'll let you maybe pick one.
Yeah.
But I just wish they would have maybe contained Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase a little more. I get it's hard to do when you name those players, but the Eagles did it. They shut them down. So maybe
Yeah.
it is the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles are good too. As you said, the Steelers, um, they've been really good. We saw what they did to Lamar Jackson last week in the Ravens. So I don't take anything away from it. So and then the Vikings, we know what they can do too.
Yeah,
Let's not forget
good
about
point.
them as well. And they're the number 1 ranked defense in fantasy. I know that doesn't, we're
Yeah.
talking about real football here in terms of defense, but yeah, the Chargers should be up there. Honestly, you can you can make the argument for the Chargers. My biggest thing is um they you know I don't want to say this, but you know they finally faced a really good quarterback, and they finally, they were kind of able to expose some of the things, and we'll get into it when we break this matchup with the Ravens, because I feel like this is another one where some of the things we saw from Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson might be able to do the same things to the Chargers. But that's the thing too, is like I've been really impressed with what they've been able to do. But yes, they're for sure a top 3 defense, and you can make the argument they're a top. They're the top defense. The Chargers are.
Yeah, you got a good point on the Vikings. Like maybe we get caught up on the yards and the points allowed because pressure and creating takeaways, game changing plays should matter too. And when you blitz as much as Brian Flores does, you're probably gonna eat up or take a bunch of yards in the passing game because you're a little too risky. But the one thing I want to look at is takeaways. I haven't looked at it in a minute, Victor. So let me give you the leader right now. Hey, Buffalo Bills, number 1 in takeaways,
Yeah,
21, but tied with the Minnesota Vikings with 21. So that should count for a lot of takeaways. And I get it. People look at yardage and people look at points allowed. But hey, if you're getting takeaways and you're aggressive and you're putting pressure, that means a lot too.
yeah. The Bills. I think it's the Vikings 1 and Bills 2 in terms of fantasy defenses right
Hmm.
now in terms of points. So
Hey, Houston
yeah,
has 20 takeaways. I'm actually surprised about that one, but yeah.
Yeah, but they've come in bunches, and
Yeah.
yeah, like
The 5
we're
interceptions.
yeah,
Yeah, good
exactly.
good point.
We also have a tier here with the fantasy. Should I bench Henry?
No, a tier, come on, like, another play in the Chargers defense, but you gotta keep rolling with Derrick Henry,
Yeah,
no?
it says play J.K. Dobbins because I want the Bulls to win.
I'll play
Uh,
both, we can't find a way to play both,
yeah.
and good
I'll,
shot
I'll
good running backs before you, by the way.
all in one show says, "Hey, any advice on what moves I could do setting the lineup?" Well,
Yeah,
send
send
us
it.
your lineup, and we'll have Gilbert give you his advice there. All right,
Yeah,
Gilbert, let's
thank you.
get. We have 6 teams, as you mentioned, on a bye this week: Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and Jets. But let's get to our top three matchups of the week. Our headline game is the Ravens. It's going to be the Monday night game between the Hardball Bowl, the Ravens at the Chargers at SoFi Stadium on Monday Night Football. You will be there along with Fernando Ramirez. Um, where do you want to start here? We saw I think was it the last time these two coaches faced each other was in the Super Bowl. Uh,
Yeah, I think so, 9 years ago, yeah.
yeah. So where do you want to start off with this matchup?
Yeah, this is a tough one, and, in terms of betting, I will, and if you check out the SI picks there, and I've been saying it, on Combos on the Beat, Dan made me go the other way, so I picked the Ravens, but in my day job at SI.com, I went with the Chargers. So, obviously, I gotta, I'll take the points too, plus 2.5 here. And part of me is a little worried because the saying, and when it comes to sports betting, at least, the saying is like, okay, when you bet on a team, like you don't want to stick around too long, they might burn you. But last week the Chargers were favorites. This time they're underdogs, and I kind of like that. Okay, cool. You went from a favorite that covered to now an underdog where people are really doubting you. Like you go and beat the Bengals, and you probably should have won handedly until you kind of, I won't say blow, you did, or blew the lead because Jim
Right,
Harbaugh gets mad. But they somehow let the lead go away. But
right,
they found a way to win the game, and that counts for something. But not being a dog, and also a dog that people are not really paying attention to, because again, just like last week, they're the Bengals have Joe Burrow. Now, the Ravens are mad and they have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. So, in terms of sports betting, that bodes well for the Chargers. Now, but there is something there where I think the Ravens are they're probably watching that Thursday night game and saying, okay, cool, only one game behind now. We need this Chargers game here. They were pretty pissed off at the Broncos when they came off a loss after the Browns game. I think they beat down the Broncos 41-10. That was in Baltimore. You're coming to SoFi. And the one thing I'll say this, and for the people who really kind of think the Ravens are a strong team, I think they're overrated. But they have a point. They say, why would you penalize the Ravens for losing a divisional game? A divisional opponent that knows them pretty well. A
yeah,
lot of teams don't get to face Lamar Jackson. Is Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt. They know how to play Lamar Jackson. Do the Chargers know how to do that? Jesse Minter has never faced Lamar Jackson, or I guess he did have him a little bit in Baltimore, but as an assistant there. So it's all going to be unique for them. You also have Derrick Henry. It's not Jamar Chase. It's not T. Higgins. It is A. Flowers. It is Rashard Bateman. It is Isaiah Likely, and it is Mark Andrews. So, I'm not one of those people that say, okay, the Ravens are going to be pissed off. They're going to beat the Chargers. The Chargers are maybe a little too green for this moment here. But to me, they showed me a lot, Victor. But it's going to be a tough game. I'm just going to go with the Chargers here because I think they have the more complete team. They're at home. They're a little overlooked right now. But I don't feel good about the way they're going to match up against Lamar Jackson though.
yeah, and I agree with a lot of what you just said. I'll focus. I'll start off with the Ravens on the Ravens side first, and one of the things, as you mentioned, is that I think a lot of people are starting to kind of you know not believe in the Ravens because of some of those losses. And of course, we pointed out the loss to the Raiders, the loss to the Browns, and now the loss to the Steelers has been, and of course they lost to the Chiefs. There's no, there's nothing bad about losing to the Chiefs. A lot of teams have done that over the past 4 years, but I think part of the thing too that you kind of have to look at this Ravens team as a whole here. And my biggest problem with this team, Gilbert, it starts with John Harbaugh, and it just feels like a lot of the blame falls on Lamar Jackson. And we've had this conversation. and rightfully so. He's the quarterback of this team. He's a captain, right? Just like when it comes to Herbert and the Chargers, like a lot of the blame when people talk about the Chargers and not being able to get to the promised land. A lot of blame goes on Herbert, even though he's had terrible coaching and not a lot of support. But in this case with Lamar Jackson, I think part of it too is we've seen this story with John Harbaugh now. Like the last time we still people hold on to that Super Bowl, and last week against the Steelers, they missed two field goals on Tucker. They also had 10 penalties on coaching. Gilbert, that's a
Yeah.
lot. That's something that you kind of have to blame on the coach. And then we've seen what they've been able to do with this offense, and as you said, they've even made changes now. I've been harsh on Zach Ward, the defensive coordinator, but he's made some changes now that I think worked against the Steelers. The only thing is, as we saw, the Steelers offense hasn't been good for the last couple games. They moved some guys. They finally benched Marcus Williams, who's been awful in defense. And so it'll be interesting to see how these changes come about against the Chargers teams that has been really good with the play action with Herbert, and they're allowing Herbert to run the ball a little bit more. And so that's what I'm looking forward to, is that Ravens offense against that Chargers defense. And the Chargers defense, we started talking, Gilbert, about how impressive they've been. And I think that the thing I've been surprised with this Chargers defense is the fact that I expected a lot of similar pressure from Jesse Minter, and we haven't gotten that. They've pretty much played up straight up. Like they've let their four guys rush up the field and create pressure with Mac, Joey Bosa, Thule, all those guys that they've had, Dupree, and then Puna Ford has been a fine. I mean, that guy, he's been one of the free agents, the steal of free agency. But I think if the Chargers are going to win this game, it comes down to uh I always mess up his name, Davion Henley, their linebacker. He needs to have a great game against Lamar Jackson. He needs to be a spy. He needs to be in coverage, because it just feels like this is that game where he needs to be like uh, uh, the MVP of this game for them to win this game, Gilbert.
Yeah, I'll say this, and we could get to the comments and we move on to the next game. The one thing that I'm really looking towards, like looking at and focusing on, like when it was a weird game last week where the Steelers beat the Ravens with field goals. I'm not surprised that the defense contained Lamar Jackson. I was surprised that Russell Wilson couldn't get the deep ball going on that secondary. Now you're facing Justin Herbert. He's probably going to have a lot more success than Russell Wilson. And say Justin Herbert is dealing the way he did in that Bengals game. Okay, two things here. How do the Ravens counter that with your bad secondary? Can you stop that? Can you contain it? Can you stop the bleeding like the Bengals did? Now, if you're the Chargers, you have a 10-point lead. How can you go for the kill and not don't say blow the lead, not lose the lead? Don't have the
Or
lead.
let them get back in
Yeah,
the
get
game.
back in the game. Sorry, Jim Harbaugh, if you're watching, but that's what I want to see. Can you learn from your mistakes? You cannot go 27-6 into a tie game that's 27-27, because I don't think the Ravens defense fixed their defense because they played Russell Wilson. So that to me is going to be critical how that game plays out. But we got some comments here, Vic.
Yeah, one last thing, Gilbert, I'll say is they need to block Matabuki, because this where this offensive line struggles, it's right up the middle. And so you're gonna need to block Matabuki in this game, or else things are gonna they're gonna create pressure, and that's gonna allow that secondary to be able to make plays on the Chargers offense. All right, let's get to all in one show. Says he's got Goff, Gibbs, Jacobs, Puka, Jennings, Kelsey, and Connor at the flex. Benches Burrow, London, Higgins on a bye, Ridley, Pollard, Waddle, and Pacheco on IR. And he's also asking, could I move Pacheco? I feel like I'm stacked at running back, but maybe I'll go for another elite wide receiver.
I get why you're playing Goff and you're benching Burrow, but as a person who dropped Burrow and really regrets it, and for Victor who has Burrow, who plays him all the time, don't bench Burrow. I
Yeah,
don't, I
yeah,
don't.
he's on a bye though.
Oh, is that why? Okay, never
Yeah,
mind.
he's on a bye.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
that's why I
I
had to
lost
pick up
track.
Herbert.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
Goff and cool. Good job. Sorry about that all in one shot. I think maybe I'm still thinking about the Chargers and the Bengals, but
yeah,
yes, good move. That's a good pickup. And Victor, you picked up Justin Herbert for your bye week, so that's a good
yep,
move there. But yes, you probably know that. Don't bench Burrow ever whenever he's not on a
nope.
bye. So the question is on Pacheco.
Yeah, on Pacheco, he's saying should he move him to get a wide receiver one, or should he just wait on? The thing is, I'll say this, Gilbert, and I've heard this is that as I said, with Hunt, since Hunt became the starter or he joined the Chiefs, he leads the league in carries. I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna. I think it might be a 50-50 split, but they're gonna split carries with Hunt. Would be my guess. Now, you're better at this than I am. It just feels that that might be something the Chiefs do.
Yeah, they could. My only concern with that is Kareem Hunt. Like, there's a reason why he was available, and there's a reason why he's a free agent. Did they already use up everything that Kareem Hunt had to offer? I thought like, he's going to
Right.
do better last week, so maybe it could be something where like when Christian McCaffrey came in, and we are thinking they might split, and no, McCaffrey was the lead back again. So maybe Pacheco could still be your guy, but it doesn't hurt to shop him. Like Pacheco is not Christian McCaffrey or Bijan, so. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of mouths to feed there. So, maybe you could. You already got Gibbs. You got Josh Jacobs. That's pretty solid already. You got Puka, Juwan Jennings, and then Kelsey and Connor, James Connor. So, honestly, all in one show. What's wrong with just standing pat? Like, I kind of like this
Yeah.
roster. You got London, you got Higgins, and like you mentioned, you're good with the bye weeks here with Goff and Burrow. So, Vic, to me, I think maybe just kind of sometimes just see what you got. Maybe look at the matchups, like look ahead,
Yep.
look at the schedule. But you have enough depth at all places, at least to me, Vic.
Yeah, no, and especially with the Lions going up against a Colts defense that struggles to, yeah, I like Goff and Gibbs in that game too, and then you got Jacobs, Puka, Jennings, Juwan Jennings, who's has played really well. Yeah, I think the the only issue here is Kelsey at tight end, but
Yeah.
I mean, he could. You never know. He's gonna stay involved. It just depends on whether or not they're gonna try to ease him in as they get later into the season.
Yeah, the only problem here for you all in one show is like when you have so many like good names and a good depth, it's like figuring out to start the right ones because who's gonna go off any week, you just don't know. So
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest thing. But maybe like Victor mentioned, maybe work try to get a tight end, but like who's gonna give up on Brock Bowers right now? Uh,
Right.
you know, maybe I don't know if he wants to have Laporta, but maybe like a Kate Auden, guys who are contributing a little more. But then, do you want to give up Pacheco for a Kate Auden? Maybe not. So it's a tough
Yeah.
one, but I just like your roster. Maybe it's okay to do nothing, but it's okay to
Yeah.
explore though.
Yeah. And I mean, once you get Burrow back on the bye and Higgins, you should be good to go because yeah, those two guys you want to start. Adir says, I'm really disappointed all week long. People talking about the Ravens offense against our defense. We're watching the same team. Ravens
Yeah.
defense is horrible. Diego
I'm with
Castaneda
you
says,
there.
home crowd advantage for the boats. What do you think? I don't know. I
Yeah.
the Ravens, I don't Ravens fans travel like you see it with the Steelers and the Packers. I don't know, to be honest.
No, I don't see it, and I think it goes back to them kind of being a little bit of a newer franchise. And before they were the Cleveland Browns before, and then they go to Baltimore. So in a way, the Ravens kind of have like the LA Rams and LA Chargers effect, where it takes a while to build that fan base. And shout out to Chargers fans because you're starting to see now that fan base building in LA with that game last week against the Bengals, because the Bengals fans also are not kind of known like the Steelers or don't travel as well. So you might get that again here with the Ravens. And I know maybe this is kind of things that don't people don't think about it. Maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but when you win games in prime
Yep.
time, you see the crowd doing like being that lively, and you're maybe a sports fan who's starting to like football, and you're saying, "Oh crap, I kind of like the Chargers. Oh, that was a fun game." That matters. That sticks with you. These are opportunities to get a fan. It sounds weird to say at a young age, but then also develop them to be Chargers fans. Anyways, these are big moments here in prime time against, because you get a lot of Packer games, you get a lot of Steelers, Raiders, all these teams that come in with big fan bases. Make sure you take advantage of it when it's like the Ravens and Bengals, because they don't really travel as much. And that was a great environment last week.
Yeah, and then you need fans to start believing in your product and they're believing in what Harbaugh is doing. So that also helps. And so, yeah, we might see a home crowd advantage for the Bolts. I mean, especially after what we saw against the Bengals, that'll be something good to see. Jorge Rodriguez is back with us. He says Gilberto and sick with the picks, Vic, which I like. Um,
Yeah,
he
shout
says
out to you, Jorge.
Dan Field goes. He says Jim Harbaugh loves Daniel Daniel Popper.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's where the bit's coming from. He Harbaugh called him out for saying blowing the lead, and he got pissed off.
Tier says my bold prediction: Herbert over 300 yards, and the Chargers will beat that ass. Uh,
Whoa!
31-14. So
I
he's a big blowout.
Yeah,
Uh,
gotta love it.
Diego Castañeda has a question for you here. Why does Gus Bus disappear after a few drives?
Yeah, it might be more of the mixing and matching and the flow of the game. Where like, okay, now that you have Gus, maybe having that short yardage situation, the physical present running back, you want to mix in J.K. Dobbins for the home run play. And shout out to Fernando for saying that. Yeah, people can see J.K. Dobbins as more of kind of a bruiser, but he's really a home run hitter. He's more like, all right, let's get these big plays going, and you can't really do that by going for the home run play all the time. So you need Gus Edwards to help you out, but then J.K. Dobbins has been doing so well. You kind of take away more Gus Edwards, but I get it. You want to see him a little more. It's not going to be Gibbs and Montgomery where they split down the middle. So that's a downside for Gus Edwards. But like he's like I've seen him, like Diego. We've seen him before. He's never really been a workhorse back. He's never been a guy who should have 20 carries, maybe 10 to 12, and help out every now and then. But he is a good running back. He's a good goal line running back. He's a good situation running back. But yeah, if you get more of him, that means he's doing well, and that definitely creates a lot of opportunities for J.K. Dobbins too.
Yeah, one more here from Diego Castañeda says also really don't know who to start, Lamar or Stafford. They're both going up against good defense.
Yeah, Stafford is facing the Eagles, right? Man, like part of me feels like Stafford might, pick apart this young secondary, but he's had a lot of bad games, as we know, Victor. We follow them closely. Where he like, is it still Stafford? Is it not? It's too inconsistent. We're like, I think I'd just rather go with Lamar Jackson because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you'll probably still get a good amount of rushing yards too.
Yeah, I think that you're gonna see Lamar. They're gonna have him run a little bit more. When he really wants to, he can run, and I think he's probably gonna run a little bit more. Jorge says, "Oh yeah, my bold prediction is Chargers 88-12. We see lightning shoot out of Harbaugh's ass." And
Yeah,
then go ahead, Arthur, ask your question. All in one show says it sucks because I had Kittle
Oh,
but couldn't refuse Puka and
oh,
Connor for him. So
that's a good trade. I understand. The only thing is like you're,
yeah,
you're you're having to wait for Puka to stay healthy, and he had a great game last week. And then Connor could be up and down, but I like this for you.
yeah. We have a lot of here from Jorge, but Jorge, we're gonna move a little bit. We need to get through this show here. I got two more here from Scooby Taylor. I need help in a dynasty league. Should I give up Amon Ra for Jaden Reed 2020 first and 2027 first?
Oh,
Damn, that's a
y-
lot.
yeah. So he's given up Amon Ra to get the picks and Jaden Reed. Man, I guess he would do it, because Amon Ra is technically a first round pick, and then you get one in the 26. But we have to wait for 26, so that's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It was 25. I would have been like, yeah, why not? But it's just, man, I do like Jaden Reed, but not to the point where like he's Amon
He
Ra.
also says I got a top four team in the league, but I feel like that's a lot for Amon Ra. So it sounds like, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So I think I will roll the dice here, especially we got the four. I guess one of the best teams in the league here. So just to make sure he's the one getting the picks if
I
he trades
I
Amon
think
Ra.
he's trying to get Amon Ra. Like somebody's offering him that.
Oh, because he says, should I give up Amon Ra for Jaden? So I think he has Amon Ra. Amon
Yeah.
Ra. I just
He says
uh,
that, like that's a lot for
yeah.
Amon Ra. So maybe that was the only
Yeah,
thing that I
just
was
just
kind
let
of.
us know if you have Amon Ra and you're gonna get that haul. I guess I would do it, but just to I don't know, especially because Jaden Reed is no slouch either, but he tends to go cold. He's kind of like Deebo Samuel. Either he has a big game or he does nothing for you. So, Victor, I'll let you be the tiebreaker here, but I think I would do it just for the like say F it. Why not?
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I haven't played in a dynasty league, but Yeah, like you also have to start looking at your futures going forward. And look, he says, I got Garrett Wilson. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
would trade on my raw if you're gonna get all those first round picks. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Maybe Garrett Wilson has a better quarterback next year.
yeah. Jorge says, who should I start? Say Flowers or Lab McConkey?
Oh, that's a good one. I really like Lad McConkey lately, but Zay Flowers has also been on a tear. He's been pretty good. So, man, McConkey will get you the PPR points. Flowers not so much, but he tends to get a lot of yards after the catch. So this is a tough one. You know, I will go McConkey just because I know the Ravens defense is bad, but it's also really hard to bench Zay Flowers right now. But I will go McConkey. I'm not sure about his injury. Jorge, you probably know better than I do. I didn't keep tabs today, but it sounded like it was more for precaution. So if he's healthy, I'm okay with going with Lad here.
Dear, let me know if I'm explaining this question right. It says, let's say we get a big win on Monday night on a short week on the road against Atlanta on an early kickoff against the Falcons coming off a bye. If you're Coach Harbaugh, how do you handle it coming this week? So my guess is trying to just figure out. I
Yeah,
think you worry about winning
yeah,
first would be my
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and then whatever happens with Atlanta, that's another thing, right?
Well, if they're winning 88-10, then yeah, maybe
Yeah,
think ahead.
exactly.
But no, let's get through the game first.
Yeah. Diego Castillo says, how big of a deal is it if Lats gets 1K? Also, if QG gets 10 touchdowns.
I think it's big because I wasn't the one saying the sky is falling when like, oh, they have no wide receiver. Like I was all in on Joe Alt. Go and YouTube Victor. You get the offensive tackle, especially one that good.
Yep.
People get caught up on getting the big weapon. I get it. They lost Keenan, they lost Mike Williams, but like I wanted to see Quentin Johnson. What can he do in his second year? People are trying to give up on the guy after 1 year. Like I get it. He's not Jackson Smith and Jigba right now level, but people are trying to give up on that guy too after a year. Like sometimes players take longer than others. So I wanted to see that. You spent the second round pick, Alad McConkey. All you heard about him from the draft experts is going to be a stud slot receiver, maybe more than that. So I wanted to see how they do. You can't do that when you're playing behind veterans like DJ Chark and Joshua Palmer. I'm glad they get them run and they're learning on the fly. You build chemistry. It kind of feels like that year that Jordan Love had last year with a bunch of young wide receivers. So right out the waves here, and I'm glad that they're doing well. And if they get those numbers, those milestones, that was the right call by Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just picked up Quinn Johnson in one of my other leagues just because I have a bunch of people on a buy as well. But yeah, like he's been he hasn't blown anybody away, but he's been good this season and he's shown improvement, and that's what you want to see. You want to be able to develop a guy, and then Lam McConkey, he's been really good, especially on third down. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
so.
Third and
He's
last.
been a good weapon. Jorge Rodriguez say Devin Montgomery or say Flowers at the flex.
They're playing the Colts right, the Lions. I'm never hesitate to
Yeah.
play one of these running backs, so I will go with Montgomery.
I'm with you there as well. All right, Gilbert, let's move on to our top our two-tier games to watch. And you know what? I'm gonna switch it up. I had Eagles Rams first. Let's start off with 49ers versus Packers.
Yeah.
That's the late window game on Sunday. The Green Bay Packer, I mean the 49ers at Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 1.5 point favorites. The over-under is 47.5, and it's already snowing over there. So
Oh.
if I'm gonna take a bet here, it's not on one of my best bets, but I take the under at this point.
Well, the other thing too, Victor, it updated to -3 because of the Brock Purdy factor, and that's what really scares me about this game. Uh, Purdy
Oh,
is hurt. He showed up on the injury report. He left early, apparently. He was supposed to talk to the media today, and they said, "Nope, let's try again tomorrow." That's not a good sign.
uh-oh.
So something must have happened with the shoulder. She had a shoulder injury, but maybe it's precaution. Maybe it's like, hey, let's just kind of chill out, see if you're okay. So yeah, so that one quickly went to 3 and 1. And I was gonna say, yeah, go with the 49ers. Why not? They're desperate and talented. Now I'm like, oh man, I don't even know. Like if a hobble, even if he plays and he's hobbled, like you don't want to go into a tough game in Green Bay like that. You just never know. It could be one of those things where like that week where people thought Jaden Downs wouldn't play and he did, and he got the Hail Mary. or that week where people thought maybe Jordan Love wouldn't play and he came back. I think it was they lost that game. Might have been the Detroit Lions game. But these quarterbacks have been playing. Every quarterback's different. But there's kind of it throws a wrench there. We're like, okay, you don't know what to expect. But if say Brock Purdy plays, I give them a chance to 49ers because I know the Packers are 7-3, but part of me feels like they could be better. Like they're
Yeah.
underachieving, and it's the inconsistencies from Jordan Love. He's not Anthony Richardson, like not at all. But he has up and down games where, like, hey, maybe a pick could be the difference here to steal the victory for the 49ers. And it sucks for Brock Purdy though, but like when he's healthy, he's been playing at a pretty high level and it's been very impressive. Not last week. I don't know what the hell happened there. But I think this team has enough talent. We're like, okay, you're 5-5. You're kind of running out of opportunities here. If you lose this game here, you might be out of it for the wild card. Like the only opportunity might be for the 5-5 route is the AFC West. Sorry, the NFC West. So the NFC West is very tight. You know, they're only one game behind the Cardinals, the other three teams being the Seahawks and the Rams. So you can't have too many losses. And then the schedule is very difficult. So all that kind of back behind against the wall, I lean the 49ers, but it's like Brock Purdy's hurt too.
Yeah, and we've seen Kyle Shanahan take a 49ers team and go on the road in Green Bay in the
Oh yeah.
snow and win. So that's part of the reason going into this game, I was kind of confident. But you're right, I forgot all about the fact that earlier to or later in the day today, we got that news with Brock Purdy. So I had already put in my pick. So this wasn't one of my best bets. I'm gonna leave it on there, but yeah, I'm with you. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this game, but I still like the running game for the 49ers now with McCaffrey back, as you said. Even if they get Brock Purdy out there to hand off the ball, and and then that defense has been playing pretty good outside of like the run defense, they still struggle with that. So this could be a big Josh Jacobs game. But you're right. I mean, I don't know what to expect from this team. They should have lost that game against the Bears last week.
Yeah.
They got lucky and pulled out the win. But yeah, if I'm betting on this game, I would like especially with a desperate team like this with the 49ers. And if you're the Packers, you put them away here. You do not want to see the 49ers in the playoffs. So if you can, go ahead and grab that shovel and put them in the ground here.
Yeah, no, good point. So are you taking the Packers here or are you taking the 49ers?
Yeah, I'm taking the 49ers.
Okay, then we are agreement here.
Yeah.
I do worry about the Brock Purdy injury, but I'm not going to shy away. Hopefully he plays and it's a good game. But yeah, let's go. Let's move on to the next one,
Yeah,
Vic.
the next one on our top 3 headline games is Eagles versus Rams. The Philadelphia Eagles are 2.5 point favorites now. So the line keeps going down, Gilbert, and the over-under is still at 49. Now, one thing we did not discuss on House of Horns. So if you want a longer preview of this game, make sure you check out Gilbert and I on House of Horns. We broke down this game. We talked about the matchups here. But one thing I was reminded, and I was listening to Mina Kimes today, was that the last time that Sean McVay went up against Big Fangio was with the Chicago Bears in 2018,
Yeah.
and they used that blueprint the New England Patriots did to defeat the Rams in the Super Bowl, where they only were, and that kind of changed the whole complexion of Sean McVay and the way he ran his offense going forward. And so it looks like this is going to be a revenge game for McVay, and I'm actually now even more excited after finding that out, Gilbert.
Yeah, and that was a game that he decided to take Brandon Staley from Vic Fangio's staff because he wanted them to run the two high shell and the Vic Fangio scheme with the Rams. They hired Brandon Staley. He did a good job that one year, and Chargers fans know the rest of the story. So he got hired
Oh
to
yeah.
be the Chargers head coach. And then when Raheem Morris took over, he kind of maybe hinted, "Hey, can you keep the same principles from the Vic Fangio scheme?" And to credit to Raheem Morris, he had his own twist on it, and it worked out. So he knows that scheme very well. He's a fan of it. They beat him in the Super Bowl. They beat him in that one game against the Bears. I want to say maybe 2018,
Yep,
2019.
2018.
Yeah. So, and then, obviously that game they did not have Matthew Stafford. It was Jared Goff. So the Fangio scheme is a little hard to beat when you're a younger quarterback and you don't have these pocket assassins. I think Jared Goff now, this version does much better, but back then it was tough. But Matthew Stafford could definitely beat any scheme. He's kind of scheme proof. He has his days where they're up and down. But people, the same thing with Brian Flores. Like, oh, Brian Flores is just flustering all these quarterbacks. Well, there are a lot of either young quarterbacks or maybe they're too old, like Aaron Rodgers. I know Stafford's getting up there too, but he's still. We just saw it last week. He was, wheeling and dealing, playing pretty well. So that's the thing where I'm like, okay, maybe Fangio could have his number, or maybe Stafford picks apart these young rookies who haven't seen him before. So that matchup, like in terms of matchups, man, it's a lot to kind of pick there. Obviously, the whole Saquon Barkley factor, and I think why, and just to give you my answer, my pick, I went with the Eagles here. I could definitely see the Rams covering, but this line is going down for a reason. I think there's a lot of sharp money on the Rams here. I wouldn't take them at. If I got the 3, I would take the Rams here. It feels a little low to me, but the Eagles have a good defense, and they shut down that explosive Bengals offense there. So, it's just I can't trust the Rams right now. They go from
Yeah.
playing a 20-15 game against the Raiders to losing to the Miami Dolphins and not scoring a touchdown to barely holding on against the New England Patriots. So with that, I'm just gonna go with the Eagles here.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, I take the Rams here in terms of the betting, uh, going with the sharps here because as we said, if I'm betting and you start seeing that number start to go down, you kind of want to go the other way, kind of like what I talked about last week with the Bills and the Chiefs. I'm just not as confident as I am with the Bills as I am with the Rams here, just
Mhm.
because they haven't shown it. At least the Bills have been consistent, the Rams haven't been, and that's as we mentioned on House of Horns. I mean, the Rams have been outscored in the first quarter by 50 points, and then also they've only scored one touchdown all season long. And now, if we see the game that we saw from the Rams against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football, then sign me up. But we don't know if that's what we're getting. So that's part of the reason we both like the Eagles in this game. But I do like the Rams to cover. Adir says I am confused about the Rams. When they play good, they look great, and sometimes lose head scratches. I like the Rams to win 24-20. Control
Oh,
Barkley though. That's going to be
yeah.
that's where the this game comes down to. Gilbert is controlling Saquon Barkley because he's been the difference maker for the Eagles. So yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be.
It's just I keep
Uh,
going I keep going back and forth. Like if you let Saquon Barkley do his thing, that means you're not letting AJ Brown beat you down the field. But again, it's too many weapons, and
Yeah,
that's
too
why I'm
many
going with the
weapons.
Eagles here.
Yeah, I think that's where. Yeah, exactly. You're right. Jorge Rodriguez says, "Is Cooper Cup still worth starting, considering Puka?"
This might be a tough one because they're playing like good Eagles secondary. Like I will go with Puka here because Puka's kind of the number one and a little maybe scheme proof. But you're taking a chance with Cup here. Obviously, last week they both did well, but that was a Patriots
Yeah, they
defense.
both. They was the third time since they played together that they both went over 100 yards.
It's only 3
Uh,
times, so
it's only
maybe
been 3
yeah.
times, so and they were going up against. I mean, they were going up against a good Patriots secondary that that has Christian Gonzalez, but they picked on Jonathan Jones, and that's where, yeah, and he's right. Thier says, "So crazy. Chargers and Rams key to victory to control the running back." Yep.
Yeah, Saquon and Derrick Henry coming in town this weekend.
One more here. So, say Flowers over Cooper Cup. Would that be the way to go?
I would, he's a number 1 receiver on the Ravens, and Cup is now number 2, facing a tough defense. But I don't know if you agree with that one, Vic.
Yeah, no, I do, especially with Say Flowers. He's more of the focal point on offense. I think the Chargers are gonna. I mean, the Rams are gonna try to. They're gonna try to, kind of, uh, give the ball all around to different receivers there. You have I think the guy that's going to have a big game for the Rams is going to be Demarcus Robinson, as
Yeah,
we saw with
I
that
think
Vikings
so
game.
too. If
Yeah.
you're trying to get like a sleeper during the bye week or all the bye weeks, maybe the Marcus Robinson could be something.
Yeah, that'll be a good pickup if you're really desperate for a receiver. All right, Gilbert. We're moving on to our betting locks of the week. Uh, After last week, we both got 3 right, and or was it 2? I think either way, we both ended up with 8 points last week. So we're right back where we're tied up at 87 after week
God,
11, Gilbert. So
I
go
can't
ahead and
believe I trusted those damn Cowboys, man.
yeah, I was kind of surprised you went up that high with that. I was like, man,
Yeah.
that's like a 1 point kind of a thing to go with that.
Yeah, it was more because of freaking Houston, but they showed me up there.
Yeah. But yeah, go ahead and explain to people what is it how we go about our 12 best bets. I mean our five best bets of the week. Sorry.
Yeah, we have our five best bets, and the one that we say first is our 5 pointer. That's the one that we're most confident most confidence in, and then number 4 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, and then we tally up the score. And right now, Victor and I are tied 87-87. So we have a close race here going into week 12.
All right, go ahead and give people your five best bets. Let's start off with number five, and that is you have
Yeah.
the Bears at +3.5 against the Vikings.
It was tough to find 5 bets that I like, and it was tough to also rank them. As I learned my
Yes.
lesson last week, I should pay more attention to ranking them. Uh, but when I go all 5 with the plus signs, I tend to do well, so I didn't wanna go away from that. I added a total there, but the last time I added a total, I felt like a coward, and that's when I lost my lead. So I'm gonna try it again. I know we tied last week, but it's still a good week.
Yep.
It was tough to rank them, but I'll go with the Bears +3.5 at home versus Minnesota Vikings. And the Bears played. I think about the Bears like they're kind of this crappy dark cloud team right now, but they played really well in a lot of phases. Besides the block field goal at the end to limit the Packers and shut down Jordan Love. So at least I know the defense is back. So if the defense can maybe fluster Sam Darnold a bit, I do worry about Caleb Williams and Brian Flores, so that could maybe screw me over. But they're at home. Caleb Williams played well, had a good chemistry with Thomas Brown. So I'll take a chance here. I don't know if I'm making the right call with the 5 pointer, but again, for me, it was kind of tough to pick games because there's a lot of lopsided games. I hate picking high spreads. I didn't want to pick a minus something favorite, so I'm gonna stick with the plus here.
Yeah, and it's a divisional game as well,
Yep.
Gilbert. We've seen how those go. So especially for the home team, you usually like that. And so yeah, I don't know if I would have made this my five, but I do like this one. And then you have a dome team going on the road, and we see how
Yeah.
some of them sometimes don't play as well when they're outside. All right, your number four, it's Colts +7.5
Yeah.
versus the Vikings. I really like this one, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, I just couldn't make it my 5 because it is the Detroit Lions, and they've been smacking the crap out of people. But there wasn't too long that long ago when they didn't cover against the Texans. They went to Houston, and the Texans covered the +3.5. So now you get +7.5. So I felt good about that. And the sharp money is going to and then Indianapolis, where this line started at +8 and it fell to +7.5 because of all the money. But it's scary though. It's Detroit Lions, man. They dropped 52-6 on the Jaguars as 14-point favorites. They dropped 52-6 on the Tennessee Titans as -12 favorites. So they cover against bad teams. The thing about the Colts, I don't know if they're good, mediocre, or maybe better than that. I can't figure them out, but I'm gonna take a chance on this team here as my number 4.
Yeah, and I really like what the changes they made with Anthony Richardson in this last game against the Jets, and I know it was against the Jets, but you also have the Lions. They're starting to lose guys. Besides Aiden Hutchinson, Anzalone now is out for 6 to 8 weeks,
Yeah, good
so you
point.
also have that. But I'm with you. I think my biggest worry is Gus. What is his name? The defensive coordinator is it's
Gus
not Gus.
Bradley. Gus
Gus
Bradley,
Bradley.
former DC leader.
Yeah, and he just plays that cover 2, cover
Yeah.
3, and I just feel like Ben Johnson's just gonna yeah, he's just gonna
Yeah.
torch him, and so that would be my only worry, but I really like I told you, I like the Colts to make the playoffs if Anthony Richardson remains the quarterback and that he continues to develop kind of what we saw last week against the Jets. So, but before we get to your number 3, we have Jesse Trejo. He says, with Josh Allen on the bye, I got Geno Smith as a QB1. Available
Mm.
free agents are Tua, Levis, DeVito. Stick with Geno or pick up one of those 3.
Chino's playing actually good Cardinals defense. They haven't a lot of touchdown, and I think the last 2 games. I forget the streak there, but they are in Seattle. I know, but the Seahawks, the
There's
home,
going to be a bad weather game, just
yeah,
FYI.
and then they haven't done well at home either. Now I think about it. They lost to the Giants, they lost to the 49ers. The Tua's playing the Patriots. You're higher in the Patriots defense than I am, Vic. I don't think they're that good. Maybe Tua, but then they haven't really had the vertical game going. A little bit last week against the Raiders, but not too much. But I wouldn't take Levis. I wouldn't take DeVito. Maybe just Tua.
Mhm.
But maybe I wouldn't mind rolling with Gino. What do you say, Vic?
I would go with Tua. Since he's been back, he's the offense, and this is going to be one of my best bets is the Dolphins. I think they're going to start scoring points. They've won two in a row. They've been able to score points with Tua now that he's been back. I think he's had at least two touchdowns in three of the four games since he's been back. So
Yep.
I would go. I also have Josh Allen on a bye week in my other league, and I picked up Bo Nix just because Bo Nix has been a top 10 quarterback in
Yeah.
fantasy.
Yeah, he's doing well. But all right, I'll pick it
All
up
right,
here
you're number
for my
three
pick.
now. You just mentioned the
There you go.
Patriots plus 7.5 versus the Dolphins.
Yeah, I still don't. I know I got burned last week taking the Raiders or Dolphins, but I don't know. Something about the Dolphins just still feels like they haven't got that explosiveness back. I'm gonna take a chance with Drake May, and it's a high spread, so I'll take the Patriots here plus 7.5.
And it's a divisional game. This is
Mm-hmm.
where, these teams know each other. And it's a trap game for the Dolphins in a way where they're starting to click. They've won two in a row now. And it's one of those games, if a lot of people have this as a win. This is where what we just saw with the Browns and the Steelers. This is one of those games where I really like the risk here of that 7.5 because hey, it's a divisional game and you can take a chance here. All right, your number two here is Cardinals +1 versus the Seahawks.
Yeah, just because I couldn't really figure out who to pick, and I don't want favorites. I did a pick 'em game here, and I'm high on the Cardinals. I have a bye week. The defense is rolling right now. Kyler Murray's getting a little more connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. It's not an easy game. Seahawks impressed me last week, but I'll go with the Cardinals here.
One of the things, a stat that blew me away that I was shocked about, the Cardinals are the number one. Their offensive line are the best pass protection
Mm,
offensive line right now, which kind of shocked me. But then
yeah,
I realized, well, this is why you go and spend a first round pick on Paris Johnson, and he's been
yep.
great. So,
That
and
that
they
GM that
love
GM's
running.
doing a good job there, by the way. The GM,
Yeah, yes.
Ozenfort.
Yes, and they're running the ball, and if it's a bad weather game, like we've already seen there, I've been seeing the updates out of Seattle with the floods out there and the rain. They're expecting a cyclone or something this
Yeah,
weekend.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I would think it's going to be one of those low scoring games where you're going to see a lot of the run game. That's why I was like, if I had Kyler or hey, make sure you check the weather before the game starts because if it's nice and there's no weather concerns, then start both of those guys in Gino and Kyler. But if it's raining, I would not, want to mess with any of these guys on fantasy except for the running
Yeah,
backs.
we saw it today with the snow affecting
Yep.
some of the offenses here.
Yep. And then your number one, you have the
Yeah.
49ers at +3 versus the Packers.
And the reason why I also had a hard time ranking them and finding bets, I was like, Brock Purdy got hurt. I just said, F it. I'll put him out there for my 1 pointer. So give me the 49ers +3.
Yeah, I like this one. It's one of mine. Let me go through mine now. My five best bets. I'm gonna keep rolling. I know you just mentioned earlier, Gilbert. You said,
Yeah.
"Hey, like you got to know when to get out before you get burned." And
Yeah,
I
you
make it in
haven't.
my
Yeah.
five. Chargers +2.5. Um, I'm just gonna keep rolling the hot hand here. Like when you're in Vegas and you're at the craps table, you roll with the hot hand, and so far so good with the Chargers. I've been betting them, and they've been they're the reasons why I got back in this race to kind of tie things up with you. So I'm gonna roll with the Chargers in this one. The Dolphins versus the Patriots. I like the over here at 46. We've seen the Patriots; they were able to score points against the Rams last week. Same with the Dolphins; they're starting to score over 27 points now since Tua's been back. So give me the over here at 46. My number three is one of the ones you had as your number one, the 49ers. I just think this is a desperation game for the 49ers. You need to win this game. It'll be a low scoring game, I feel like. And the 49ers, even if the Packers win, I just think it's going to be a close game. So give me that. I am taking one favorite here. I couldn't go with all underdogs here, so I took the Texans at -8. The Titans are pretty much already playing for next season, Gilbert. It seems like, and the Texans they need to prove they can blow out teams. They started with the Cowboys. Now you need to do it against the Titans. So give me the Texans here as -8, and then my last one here. It's a divisional game, as we keep saying. It's the
Mm,
Raiders. The Raiders have won, I think, something like 8 of 9 games versus the Broncos. I and I don't expect the Raiders to win, but they'll keep it close. Um, and we'll see what happens. But I, as my one, I was like, why
Yeah.
not? We'll see if
Yeah.
they do anything here.
And that one, it felt like it was a sharp play early on, Vic. It was -3.5 to start the week, and then it quickly went to -5.5, and now it's -6. That tells me also the public likes this one a lot too. And I'm like, okay, maybe the sharps are probably saying, okay, they got it in early when it was like -3.5, and then now it's going 5, 6. Okay, if you haven't got in now, it's a little
Yeah.
too late. So maybe the Broncos do show up. Sorry, the Raiders may show up. They're at home. I think they beat the Broncos at home last year. So yeah, that's why I kind of, if it was -3.5 or lower than 5, I would have maybe taken the Broncos. But again, I don't want to get a favorite this week because of my thing here. But yeah, when it went to 6, I'm like, yeah, maybe it's time to take the Raiders here.
Yeah, and I'm always wary of teams who blow out a team the week before, and then they're on a high, and everybody's like, yeah. And then the Raiders just had to go across they had to go across the country, and so everybody's like, yeah, they're just tanking now. Like I said, it's a divisional game. You just never know what's going to happen. All right, Gilbert, let's close off with quick dump offs
Yeah.
here. We only have 3 more games here to go over. The Chiefs are 10.5 point favorites. You can find this line at 11. The over-under is 43 against the Carolina Panthers. Fernando did say that he likes the upset here of the Panthers
Wow.
upsetting the Chiefs. So let me ask you this: we know where you're going with this, but what happens if this does happen? Like how do people just freak out on the Chiefs if this
Oh
happens, if the
yeah.
Panthers pull out the upset?
Yeah, like they're I shouldn't say they're like a JV team. They're like a lower
Yeah,
level team. I get that they beat the Saints, they beat the Giants. That's like it took everything they had to beat those 2 bad teams. I guess the Saints are a little better now, but yeah, even if the Chiefs have one of the worst days, they're still gonna win. But I don't know if it's a surprise to you, Victor, but I'll take the Panthers to cover. 10.5 is a lot. This team doesn't
yeah,
cover. They're like the Chiefs are content with just winning. They don't care
yep.
for style. They're not the Detroit Lions where they're gonna beat you up. They kind of just want to get it over with and move on to the next week. So I'll take the Panthers to cover. I don't feel good about it because again, when you watch the Panthers play, it's like the little train going uphill. You got this. You got this. You could do this. Hey, Bryce Young,
And
come
then
on, you can do it. And yeah, when they play bad teams, and that's good. That's good for creating a winning culture for Dave Canales. Who I thought's gonna be doing a good job there to get those 2 wins there. But it took everything they had to beat those bad teams. So it could get ugly, but I'll take them to cover.
yeah, I've been saying it. Like the Chiefs haven't covered when they've been favorites now for a while now, and so yeah, I like that one as better. I actually thought about making that one my best bet, and then this one too. The Cowboys at the Washington Commanders.
Mhm.
I saw that line. I was like 10.5. The over under is 45.5. We're talking about 2 divisional teams. We know how
Yeah,
this is. I
yeah.
would not be surprised, Gilbert, if the Cowboys upset the Commanders. Now, do I have any reason to tell you like no? But like that game was, they were within 10 points of the Texans before they just, the Cooper Rush just gave away that
Fumble.
game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, it's just I get it, division opponent, and maybe it could happen, and it's a very high spread. The Commanders have not been playing well the last few weeks, but something feels like this team is ready to check out, and that's why I'd rather stay away from this game. Like I don't pick anybody. It's too high of a
yeah,
spread, and I can't get burned by the Cowboys twice. So I guess I got to make a pick here. So I'll obviously Commanders are going to win the game because it's not my best 5. I could just say this. I take the Cowboys to cover, and you see how the spreads are getting higher every week now for the Cowboy games. And for check out my SI betting column for the week, and I talked to somebody at the Westgate. They're like, we can't figure out the lines. We can't figure out how to do the odds because they keep covering these damn big spreads. It's like also
yeah.
now we can't figure out the Cowboys because they can't cover the 7 or 8. Now it's going to 10. So they seem like they're ready to check out. Fernando showed us a video of the guys at the club on a Monday night after a big loss.
Yep.
But I'll take the Cowboys to cover here.
Yeah, and then you don't have to worry about Jerry's World and the sun coming in. So
Yeah,
maybe
good
going
point.
on the road here.
They're
I'm good.
terrible at home, so maybe you're
Right.
right. Better
Yeah,
on the
they've
road.
been getting blown out, but I like the Cowboys to cover in this game. I really do. I don't know why, but I just feel like they will. We'll see what happens. I think the
Yeah.
Commanders. I thought one thing here that we need to keep an eye on. Somebody brought it up, like one of the B reporters asked Cliff Kingsbury. They're like, "Hey, so we've noticed that your defenses, I mean, your offense, goes to crap in the second half of seasons. Can you explain why?" And
Oh,
then
wow.
yeah, he was not happy about being asked that. He kind of made a joke about it, which I thought was a nice comeback for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a good.
That
Yeah,
is
like
true.
yep.
He
Ne-
has struggled with that.
yeah. Next one here and the last one: Tampa Bay Buccaneers -6. Over under is 41 at the New York Giants.
Yeah, again, I wasn't taking favorites for my top 5, but I like this one for the Buccaneers. They're coming off a bye week. I get the Giants have a good defense and the Giants are at home, but then you're playing Tommy DeVito. I don't know what the hell that was about. I think Drew Lock would have gave you more there. I get you're done with Daniel Jones. You don't want him to get hurt. I know the whole Derek Carr effect there
They're
where
just tanking,
yeah,
man.
yeah, go home, maybe tank, don't get hurt. We don't wanna owe you the money that if you get
Hmm.
hurt. So, yeah, so I know -6 is a lot for a road team. They might get Mike Evans back though, the
Yep.
Buccaneers, so I will take the Buccaneers to cover here.
Yeah, I'm with you. This and I'll say this, and I'll bring it up when we do Four Compas on Tuesday. But I picked the Falcons to win that division. I am now rooting for the Buccaneers to win this division. I do not want to see the Falcons in
Yeah,
the playoffs. I just I love the greediness of this team. It might be a little bit too late, but they have a favorable schedule. If you win here at the Giants, you still have the Raiders on that
yeah,
schedule. They still have the Panthers, I think, on the schedule. So there are some winnable games, and you can, yes, you're 2 games behind the Falcons, and they have the tiebreaker, but, you think, they can still make it up. The Falcons are still gonna play the Chargers and some other teams, so
yeah,
there's some games they're gonna lose here, so but yeah,
yeah.
I'm give me the Buccaneers. I wanna see them win this division for the 3rd straight year, I guess. It would be if that's the
I
case,
think
but
4th, it might be 4, yeah.
it might be 4, so but, yeah, Gilbert, week 12 isn't as good, but a lot of the local teams are getting the shine, which I like, the Chargers, the Rams, and then we get a playoff rematch that we saw last season between the 49ers and the Packers.
Yeah.
Those are the highlights of this week, but
Even
outside of
even
that,
even Seahawks Cardinals, I like to
yes,
watch.
you're
But,
right.
yeah, those are the top 4. But then we got surprised today, Steelers,
Yes.
Browns was actually a very entertaining game, so, I was bashing this, schedule until I saw that game, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can get surprised. Maybe Dolphins Patriots can be sneaky good. I am intrigued about that Colts Lions game though. I want to see a little bit, and even Bears Vikings. We might get.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. What is? Oh, here's the last question here from Matthias. Says I got a serious question. They just show Coach Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, in his 17 seasons is 12-10 record in the playoffs. How did Brady and Belichick dominate like that?
Yeah, I remember some of these Ravens teams that beat the Patriots a lot, so I think that's why he has a good record. He won that Super Bowl. But yeah, if the question is, how did John Harbaugh beat some of these Patriots teams? Like I thought they were just a physical team. You don't want to play that team in December and January. So and it's been a minute for John Harbaugh. They did go to the AFC title game last year. But they got to get one. They need to get to a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. You don't want to have this era
Yep.
here where he never got to one. But with Joe Flacco, they were pretty good at being that team that was overlooked and then winning games in the playoffs.
Yeah, doesn't Joe Flacco still have the record for best record on the road? Like he was
Yeah,
something
something
like
like yeah.
yeah,
And people
or
always
the
count
most
them
road
out.
wins, most road
Yeah, that's what it
playoff
was. I
wins.
think. Yeah, because
Yes.
I remember that's what it was, and it's because you look at the roster. Joe Flacco, who cares about them? Like you don't have that with Lamar Jackson. It's like, oh, you got Lamar Jackson. You were going to pay attention. With Flacco, they didn't, and that's why they always caught him off guard. And then the whole debate about is he elite, and then he won the Super Bowl.
Yep. Yep, and that's I mean, he if it wasn't for the lights going out, who knows? We'd be talking about a different team
Yeah,
winning that
Kaepernick.
Super
Yeah,
Bowl. Yep. All right,
and you
Gilbert.
got
Well,
the
that
rematch
does it
now.
for our preview of week 12. Like I said, I mentioned some of the highlights of the week, but as we said, six teams on a bye week. So make sure you check your lineups, go and try to get some guys up there on the wire. Make sure you pick up some guys that you need. But we're set for week 12 now.
Yeah, and quick I guess promo alert. I guess we might be doing this next Wednesday, Vic. We got to talk about it because next Thursday is
That's
Thanksgiving.
right.
And yes, it might be a triple. We got to talk to Fernando, but we might have to do a triple header where we have House of Horns, What's a Boats, and then Heelberto's hour. But we'll figure it out. But we still probably have four combos on Tuesday. We'll have Lunes live on Monday. Well, actually, yeah, another promo. Lunes live will probably be really early, like maybe 10:30 in the morning, because Fernando has to drive up to SoFi for Monday Night Football, Ravens Chargers. So expect an early show there. If it's too early, check out the replay for Lunes live. Probably the same hour on Four Compas, but it might be some shuffling because of Thanksgiving. We'll let you guys know. But yeah, and then do us a favor. Jorge was the one that helped us out last week with buying some merch. If you could buy merch, all the money from that will go for us to funding our trip to New Orleans, for Super Bowl Radio Row, Super Bowl 59. That is, I think we just talked about that the other day. So
Yep.
yeah, check out the merch store. Victor has the website there, and maybe I'll just drop it in the comments in case people are still checking us out here. And yeah, we got a cool hoodie. Jorge was vouching for the hoodie. We got this hat here too. We got a bunch of stickers. So just check out the merch. If you see anything you like, it will definitely help us out, and it will go a long way here.
Yeah, and yeah, make sure you hit up the website and check out what we have on there. And as you said, Jorge has been gracious enough to, help us out by purchasing. He made a bet and he was a man of his word, which we really
Yeah, I should make more
enjoy.
bets to get people to buy stuff.
Yeah, and Jorge said he was out here eating some crackers, some saltine crackers. So we really appreciate that from Jorge. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, but thank you for everybody who joined the Gilberto's Hour live feed here, and everybody who's been joining us all week, checking out all the shows here. So another good week for us here, but now it's time to get going. We will be on after Eagles Rams, Victor and I, for House of Horns Rams postgame show, probably around 5 p.m., maybe 4:45, 4:50. Uh, Actually, no, that's a Sunday night
No,
football game.
9 o'clock, like nine
So yeah,
o'clock or
so
something.
yeah, so 9 p.m. Pretty
I
late
was
there.
gonna say.
More like I guess. Well, last week's game went to 9 p.m. That was really late. So hopefully it's not the same case. Maybe it's 8:30, 8:45. We'll see us. But yeah, Sunday night football, Rams, Eagles, Gilberto's hour, and then obviously Monday night football. Maybe I'll try to hop on with the guys from SoFi Stadium. So another late one also. But that's good. Those are primetime games, and people are paying attention. People are watching. Join us all week. But it's time to get going, right, Vic?
Yes, time to go. Time to get week 12. I can't believe it's gone so fast, Gilbert.
Yeah. But all right, let's get out of here. Check out the merch. Get a sticker if you want. Get a hoodie, get a hat, get a shirt. But on that note, nos vamos, pues, vámonos.